So, the rumors were true. Sonic Generations isn't only being remastered, but Shadow is also receiving an entire campaign for this game. Damn, bro. This is cool as fuck. So during PlayStation's State of Play show, Sonic Generations was shown off, as rumored by a fairly credible leaker within the Sonic community. And during the trailer, Shadow shows up, also confirming our Sonic and Shadow game that was leaked to come out later this year. In the trailer, we can see Shadow following Black Doom's eye from Shadow the Hedgehog, the 2005 video game, and we can also see him fighting the Biohazard from Sonic Adventure 2. Final Chase from SA2 and Westropolis from Shadow the Hedgehog also appear in the trailer as what appears to be fully playable levels. The game's description from the official Sonic Generations Remaster website says that Shadow is teaming up with Classic and Modern Sonic for this collection, giving us two unique experiences. Shadow will have a brand new story campaign that runs parallel with Sonic's story in Sonic Generations. It seems that these will be two separate games bundled together in a way. I'm assuming it'll be like Sonic Mega Collection or Sonic Origins, where on the main screen you'll get to select which game you want to play and go from there. Upon clicking on a system to pre-order the game for, more details are revealed about the game, including the game's plot and what we can expect out of Shadow's campaign. Black Doom is making his grand return as the main villain, and Shadow must journey into his past by facing painful memories and past foes, all while unlocking brand new abilities that players will be able to utilize. My guess is that this will be content more for new, younger players who missed out on games like SA2, Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, and really Shadow's story as a whole. It'll likely play like a quick and concise recap of Shadow's journey up until now, especially that all the kids who watched the third Sonic movie are gonna want to play as him in a video game. But yeah, there's already a lot here to unpack, but I'm so fucking hyped for this. Last time Shadow was officially playable was in a DLC for Sonic Forces in 2017, which was 7 years ago. 7 damn years ago. Now he's getting a whole new story campaign with brand new levels, bosses, and mechanics, which, let's talk about that for a second. Not only is Shadow making a return with all new story, but so is Black Doom. Last time we heard from that dude was in 2005. 2005, which was 19 years ago. I think that's also a really big deal aside from just Shadow returning. Crazy part is that he's the main villain of this campaign. This is like the first continuation of Shadow's story since what? Sonic 06? Which in that game I believe he's working for Gun. Which, quick side tangent, I'm curious if they're going to continue that plot, since although Sonic 06 never happened, it seemed like Shadow had joined Gun before the events of Sonic 06, so technically he would still be working with them if he didn't quit or get fired from his job before this game's events. But yeah, either way, it's like our first canon continuation of Shadow's journey in a long time, if you don't include Sonic Forces. Now the website calls this new game a collection, which sounds like Shadow's campaign will be its own separate thing. So what can we expect from it in terms of length, levels, and bosses? Well, I would imagine that Shadow's portion of the collection will be relatively short, probably between 3 to 6 levels for Shadow's campaign, and the potential of 3 to 4 boss fights as well. I don't expect Shadow's portion of the game to be the super long epic experience or anything, but maybe a little longer than his DLC in Sonic Forces. It might take up to 3 hours to complete at the absolute most between levels, bosses, and cutscenes, and even then I still think that's extremely generous. I don't think players should go into this expecting a brand new fully fleshed out game, but rather expect a few new levels and challenges built off of Sonic Generations' core gameplay style, all while utilizing Sonic Team's Hedgehog engine too. I believe it'll be more of a way to cure that little Shadow itch for when the third Sonic movie comes out. But nonetheless, it's still brand new content and will be a brand new experience for all of us, which of course I'm happy for. But what can we expect to see? Well, since this will probably be a smaller, much more compact version of Sonic Generations, here's some stuff I think is on the table for Shadow's campaign. As far as levels go, I can see us having up to 5. With Final Chase and Westropolis confirmed as stages in the game, that gives us 3 more. I do think we'll see a remastered level from Sonic Forces, since Shadow is playable in that game, and Sonic Team already has the level assets made available to them. It would be easier for the team to add at least one level from that game, rather than create all new HD assets from an older title. Second, I think it's possible for Radical Highway to make a return, since it's an iconic level for Shadow, as it was his first fully playable stage. Plus, Sonic Team has assets from City Escape to use in Radical Highway, making it another pretty easy level to bring over. And then lastly, I think we'll receive another stage from Shadow the Hedgehog, one with all new assets such as the Black Comet, Digital Circuit, or Sky Troops, as this will likely be one of the levels that the team puts most of the development time into since it's something that has to be built from the ground up. Plus the boss fights will likely contain new environments as we can see in the trailer. The website also mentions some games that Shadow appeared in, including Sonic Battle, so maybe it's possible to see a stage from there. But that game basically took already known Sonic levels and turned them into arenas to fight in. As a bonus though, they could include a level from Sonic 06 in Shadow's campaign, White Acropolis or Dusty Desert being my first guesses as they're the first and last levels in Shadow's story mode respectively, but I have a feeling an 06 level might be reserved for a boss fight. Speaking of boss fights, what can we expect there? Well, we already see Biohazard as one of the bosses, and we can probably safely assume Black Doom will be a boss as well, if not the final boss of the campaign. So here are a few strong contenders I think could be probable boss fights, Mephiles being one of them. Although the events of Sonic 06 never happened, it would still be kinda disappointing to not see this absolute god of a character show up as a boss fight. I mean, he's a big part of Shadow's story in Sonic 06, and is the only character that fights Shadow in that game. Sonic and Silver don't even fight Mephiles unless you count Solaris, but no. Next is Diblin, who is another strong contender for a boss fight. I mean, he's a huge part of Shadow's past, and I can sense some of you are like, Joey, who the fuck is Diblin? So I'll answer that really quick. Diblin, or Diblin, is the commander of Gun, and plays a huge role in the Shadow the Hedgehog video game. He has significant connections with Shadow, Maria, and the Ark, and is even a boss fight in Shadow the Hedgehog. Actually a few depending on which route you take. I mean, his boss fight is practically like an Eggman boss fight in which you're just fighting a giant mech that requires multiple hits to take down. I'd actually be surprised if we didn't see Diblin as a boss fight in the game. Next, I think we'll see at least one rival fight. Since Silver already has a remastered boss fight against Sonic in Sonic Generations, I don't think we'll see him as a boss fight for Shadow. Instead, I think if Shadow does have any rival boss fights, it'll be between either Sonic or a Shadow android. Sonic makes sense because it's, well, Sonic. Plus the game is supposed to somehow run parallel with the events of Sonic Generations. So perhaps it's similar to Sonic's rival boss fight against Shadow, but instead of playing as Sonic, you're playing as Shadow fighting Sonic. I do, however, actually think a Shadow Android boss fight makes even more sense than having Sonic as a rival fight. In Sonic Heroes, Shadow's told that he's an android, and even in Shadow the Hedgehog this idea is played around with more. It isn't until the final boss of Shadow the Hedgehog against Devil Doom that Eggman actually reveals that Shadow is in fact not an android, and that he actually saved Shadow after the events of Sonic Adventure 2 when Shadow plummets to the Earth after stopping the final hazard with Sonic. So a large part of Shadow's story in previous Sonic games has actually been him dealing with the fact that he might potentially be an android. And since the game's description says that Shadow has to confront painful memories, this could very well play into that. Lastly, I think it's possible we'll see Devil Doom, but more likely a new Black Doom form, as the final boss in Shadow's campaign. Unfortunately, I could see Sonic Team omitting the utilization of Super Shadow in this game, which would be very sad considering all the hype that's going to be around his character from the third Sonic movie. Not to mention the game is set to release in autumn of 2024 this year, the quarter just before the movie's release. What I do think will happen though, is that Shadow will remove his inhibitor rings to fight a powered up Black Doom as the final boss, especially since everything is supposed to be taking place simultaneously with Sonic's story, in which Sonic is already out looking for the Chaos Emeralds. But yeah, I think that's about what we can expect to see from the bosses. The last exciting piece of news that we have about this game states that Shadow will also have never before seen abilities and powers that he can utilize, which I think we get a glimpse of in the trailer. We at least know players will be able to utilize Chaos Snap and Chaos Spear, as you can see Shadow perform these moves during gameplay. I'm very curious as to what other abilities will be in the game and how they'll perform, as the game seems to still play like Sonic Generations, in which there isn't any frontier styled combat, and gameplay in Sonic Generations just has the player moving forward all the time, or at the very least left and right during 2D sections. I'm sure Chaos Control will be an ability Shadow can use that will function similar to Sonic's slowdown ability in Sonic Generations, and I'd be surprised if Chaos Blast didn't make a return. How that one will work, I'm not entirely sure, but we do know it's one of Shadow's signature abilities. Outside of that, I think he'll have similar abilities to what Sonic can do in Sonic Generations, with maybe one or two new abilities, as we're said to be getting never before seen powers, which I'm psyched about since Sonic got his arsenal updated in Sonic Frontiers. I'm pumped to see what new moves Shadow gets to use in this game. But yeah, that about wraps things up here. What do you guys think about this announcement, and what levels and bosses do you want to see in Shadow's campaign? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see us cover Sonic and Shadow Generations in the future. In the meantime, stay safe and hydrated out there, and until then, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.